10 Facts about the Numbers Station Mystery. 1. The numbers stations are shortwave radio stations that broadcasts a voice that reads out sequences of numbers, words or letters, sometimes using a phonetic alphabet. The phenomenon has lasted for many years and no one has yet managed to understand their function or where they come from.
Iteration 7, 2, 9, 4, 5, 3.
Okay, what's that? Oh, no.
What?
The batteries are...
Iteration.
2. These particular radio stations have existed for several years, there are even traces of them since the First World War, but in the early 1990s the phenomenon grew dramatically, becoming a real international case and also a sort of urban legend. 3. 3 types of number station can be identified. Phone stations, where the numbers are pronounced by a voice or by a speech synthesizer. Stations that broadcast in Morse code. Stations that broadcast apparent noise, more often called noise stations. 4. The transmitted voices are often produced by a speech synthesizer and use a wide variety of languages, particularly in the USA they are often heard in Spanish, while in Europe the transmissions are generally in English, German or French or even in Slavic languages. They are also mostly female, more rarely male or infantile. 5. Enthusiasts have sometimes given nicknames to numbers stations, often reflecting some of the station's distinctive elements. For example, Lincolnshire Poacher, one of the better-known stations of its type, thought to be operated by the SIS, played the first 2 lines of the popular song of the same name before each set of numbers. Magnetic Fields plays French electronic music by Jean-Michel Jarre before and after each set of numbers. The Atención station begins its broadcast with the Spanish word Atención. 6. A typical message has an average duration of 45 minutes and is generally made up of blocks of numbers which are read with a regular interval of a few seconds between one and the other. The start of each transmission is always declared with one or more words, so an example could be, Atención. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and so on. The opening word is usually repeated several times before the transmission begins, presumably to make sure whoever is listening is really listening, or to make sure they understand certain things. In some cases, in addition to the usual word, a series of electronic beeps or numbers repeated several times, can be heard before the actual message begins. According to the experts, these first blocks of numbers and words would indicate the total of blocks of code contained in the subsequent message, such as, count 204, count 204, octong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and so on. 7. The case Atención. Due to the shortwave transmission method, it is very difficult to understand where the station's signal comes from. However, thanks to transmission errors or radio wave propagation, it has been possible to have some clues. For example, thanks to an alleged transmission error in the 90s, it was possible to understand that the station renamed Atención was located in Cuba, given that for a short period of time the station Radio Habana Cuba was broadcast on the frequencies of this numbers station. In 2000, the USA officially recognized the Cuban origin of the Atención station, which was later legally prosecuted by the US justice system. 8. To conclude, there is one last feature that should not be underestimated. The broadcasts always start at very specific times such as 4 p.m. It has almost never happened that they started at 4:13 p.m. or similar times. According to many, this would indicate the fact that these messages are addressed to someone who has some sort of date. 9. All the governments, suspected of being involved with the numbers stations, have always denied having made use of these transmission methods. In fact, if they were actually government transmissions, a doubt would arise natural, because various governments from all over the world would have all made use of the same secret transmission method. This would logically make no sense, Considering this fact, we would be back to square one. But then what are they for? And what are these mysterious radio stations? 10. The technology used by these stations to transmit the number sequences has always been fairly obvious: common shortwave transmitters with power from 10 to 100 kilowatts. The transmitters usually work in variable frequency amplitude modulation, with push-pull amplification in Class B. Transmission technology could change in the future with the introduction of the word digital radio system, which allows data to be transmitted in the form of text in addition to broadcasting, at a speed more than sufficient for the needs of a numbers station. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell to be notified of new videos.